I'm Haley Perot, and this is Northwest Newsweek. The police chief for Anishinaabe Police Service has been terminated effective immediately. The board of directors for NAPS announced the decision Friday regarding Roland Morrison, who was suspended in March on allegations of misconduct. Morrison was appointed NAPS chief in April of 2019, at which time he became the first ever police chief from Nan Territory. The NAPS board says the conduct investigation has concluded, leading to the termination of Morrison's employment. No details about the nature of the misconduct are being made public. Interim Police Chief Terry Armstrong has agreed to serve as the full-time chief while the board determines its next step. Armstrong previously served as NAPS chief from 2013 until 2018 and came out of retirement when Morrison was suspended. The region's municipalities are calling on the province to address the critical paramedic shortage in the Northwest. It's already led to the shutdown of a base in Emo. NOMA President Wendy Landry hopes provincial support can help attract and retain paramedics in our region. Vasilios Bellos reports.
Emergency medical services in the region are at a breaking point.
Our board felt that it was a crisis situation.
Shunya Mayor Wendy Landry is the president of the Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association, which has sent a letter to the province calling for a major funding change to address the paramedic shortage in the Northwest. The Rainy River District, for example, currently has only 36 paramedics when it requires 42 to function properly. Landry says these shortages have already led to a worst-case scenario for one community.
You know, the town of Emo had to close down their EMS center because they didn't have anybody to work, which jeopardizes all the people in the area. When we talk about daycares and schools and mines and those kind of sectors in your community, you start to worry about the vulnerable, the seniors, the emergencies that happen.
NOMA, which represents around 232,000 people in the region, wants the province to support the Northwest by attracting and retaining paramedics. Some of the challenges cited are non-competitive salaries, a difficult work-life balance, and the rural and remote work, with the region being more than 500,000 square kilometers.
We have to really get creative in our target recruitment process in spelling out the quality of life, the opportunity for lower housing costs. You know, to buy a house in Northwestern Ontario is definitely cheaper than in Southern Ontario, and start to look at targeting individuals and colleges across the province.
Landry says advocacy will go far beyond the letter, with the upcoming Roma conference in January offering a chance to speak to the ministry directly. Along with that, the NOMA president believes having MPP Kevin Holland as a voice for the region to be a valuable resource. Vasilios Bellos, TBC News.
The mayor of Fort Frances has taken a temporary leave of absence. Town officials say Mayor Andrew Halakis needs time to focus on his health. According to a media release, Halakis has been managing health challenges since late July. He's currently receiving care in hospital and is thanking the community for their understanding and support during this time. Halakis plans to participate virtually in council meetings whenever possible. In his absence, Deputy Mayor Michael Bian will assume the mayoral duties with support from the clerk's office and municipal staff. The news came about 1 week after Fort Frances councillor Mandy Olson resigned effective immediately. She said her decision was due to concerns about the amount of commitment shown by Halakis and the rest of council towards reconciliation in Fort Frances. The final open house was held this week for the planned Waasigan transmission line. Come 2027, a new power line will run from Shunya to Dryden, twinning the one already in place. The 350 megawatts of electricity will be enough to power 11 mines, as demand for electricity through the region could grow twofold in the next decade. Brendan Miller has more.
People from around the area came out to find out more about the Waasigan transmission line project. It's a two-stage project where the first section will be built from Shunya to Atikokan and provide 230 kilowatts of the total 350. That phase of the line is proposed to be finished near the end of 2025. The second phase is planned from Atikokan to Dryden. Its targeted service date is in 2027. Sunny Karanakaran, the VP of Strategic Partnerships, gave some information on how Hydro One worked with community members about location and how the line will be constructed.
We've received all sorts of feedback because the way we actually learn how we should actually construct a project, the preferences that communities have and so forth, comes through from that actual feedback. So we take that into account and we make decisions on how we are going to actually build things based on what we hear from people.
Despite this, many people here in Kaministiquia were not pleased with how the process worked overall. Many residents tried to find a way to get the line moved over the last 2 years. Some ideas were agreed to, while others were not.
I think I could say the headway was made by making Hydro or convincing Hydro to be more gentle in their approach. We feel like in a certain way we lost the battle to have the line moved elsewhere, but Hydro is much more sensitive now to how it affects a community.
Even still, residents will have to adjust to the changes coming their way.
The new line will go on my neighbor's property, but I will still be affected because of the construction and the loss of our habitat. A lot of trees will be cut down, so my neighborhood won't look the same.
Residents had other concerns about how much of their land would be used, as well as keeping trespassers off their property. Hydro One says it's committed to mitigating those circumstances as well. Brendan Miller, TBT News.
The regional coroner's office has announced that an inquest will be held into the death of an Atikokan man who was in police custody at the time. 37-year-old Aaron Fisk died on October 18, 2020. He had been arrested by Atikokan OPP for breaching conditions of a release order. Officers took him to the ground and punched him in the arms after he resisted arrest. Fisk was placed in a holding cell at the local detachment. A few hours later, he fell off the bed semi-conscious and died soon after. Fisk had told police he had been drinking, but the post-mortem found he was on fentanyl and methadone. The officers involved were cleared of any wrongdoing by the SIU. An inquest is mandatory under the Coroner's Act for deaths while in custody. The location and dates for the hearing have not yet been announced. 3 people have been charged with arson in connection to a fire at a Sioux Lookout apartment complex on October 25th. OPP say a neighbor reacted quickly to extinguish the blaze, but extensive smoke and water damage displaced the residents of about 17 units inside the building on Miller Crescent. A 32-year-old from North Caribou Lake, as well as a 27 and 23-year-old from North Spirit Lake, have been charged with arson, breaking and entering, and other charges. All 3 remain in custody. Red Rock Indian Band held a peaceful demonstration on Highway 1117 at the Nipigon Bridge on October 21st. Chief Alan Odawa was joined by around 100 band members speaking out against what they call repeated indignities to ancestral remains on the original site for the Parks Canada Visitor Centre in Nipigon. Jessica Clement reports.
Red Rock Indian Band, along with various other First Nations, walked to the Nipigon Bridge Monday morning in protest of what they consider repeated disrespect towards ancestral remains found at the former site of Parks Canada's Visitor Centre in Nipigon. During excavation for the planned National Marine Conservation Area Visitor Centre, the remains of 4 Indigenous ancestors were uncovered. However, they were incomplete due to how much earth had been removed from the site, with around 60 loads of earth still unaccounted for. Chief Alan Odawa Jr. says it's sad that it had to come to a peaceful demonstration to make their voices heard.
During May 8th, Parks Canada was digging a hole in, unearthed some of our ancestors, and the red tape and gray areas, we just couldn't get anything back. It was very frustrating because you shouldn't have to go to this extreme to get any answers.
Parks Canada has issued a statement saying, though it is beyond our jurisdiction, Parks Canada has advocated for the return of materials from private properties and continues to work with landowners and government departments to locate and return all ancestral remains. We sincerely recognize the pain this unfortunate situation has caused. The protesters ended up blocking the north side of the bridge, slowing down highway traffic to hand out informational pamphlets. Through this protest, Odawa is hoping Parks Canada will recognize its mistakes and they'll be able to make meaningful change moving forward.
With the burial investigation, they had to wait for the material to get off federal land before they can step in. So it's just that long process. So hopefully what we get out of this is that this never happens again, that the burial units is involved right from, it doesn't matter if it's on federal or provincial land. The burial should have been involved right away.
This is a historical moment to find remains that date back down to the 1400s. This is something that you write a book about. This is pretty big, and the lack of movement and the lack of respect to the First Nation is unfortunate. And it's unfortunate that to this point we couldn't work together to get things moving forward quicker.
The Parks Canada statement also says the federal agency recognizes that the discovery of ancestral remains during construction work has been very painful and distressing to members of the Red Rock Indian Band. We remain committed to the ongoing efforts to address the situation with the utmost respect and sensitivity. Jessica Clement, TBT News.
Coming up after the break, 2 remote First Nations celebrated their connection to the provincial power grid.
Sometimes it's unbelievable because the concept of bringing energy into the north was a concept way back in 17 years ago.
Two more remote communities are celebrating their connection to the Watay power transmission system. KI First Nation and Wapakeka are located 500 kilometers north of Thunder Bay, and now they no longer have to rely on diesel generators for electricity. Justin Hardy has the story.
The Watay-Nikanayat power transmission system is now energizing 2 First Nations around Big Trout Lake. Kichinumakusabininawaag and Wapakeka First Nation are the latest communities to celebrate their dual connection to the Ontario power grid through the new system. Watay-Nikanayat CEO Margaret Kanakwanash says 2024 has been an exciting year for the project.
It's a major milestone that's been in the works for at least 33 years for our First Nations to get reliable energy in their communities. So it's a major celebration and a major step forward. Sometimes it's unbelievable because the concept of bringing energy into the north was a concept way back in 17 years ago. And now we're doing end of construction celebration, and I'm really excited about it.
Located roughly 580 kilometers north of Thunder Bay and about 25 kilometers away from each other, KI and Wapakeka are the 9th and 10th First Nations connected to the provincial power grid through the Watay-Nikanayat power transmission system. KI Chief Donnie Morris says it's amazing to see the fruits of so many years of labor.
For me and him, we've been here a long time, so it's a breeder that is complete, finished, and like I said, it brings opportunities in the future, and how we're going to work together to produce our progress moving forward in the future.
To me, it's something that makes me feel good as a community to be part of this project.
Wataynikaneyap Power is majority owned by an equal partnership of 24 First Nations in partnership with Fortis Inc. and other private investors. Kiwetnung MPP Sol Mamakwa says every major project in the north should take a look at how Wataynikaneyap works.
You know, I think the project of Wataynikaneyap is a model that we can follow when we work together. We can do great things. And I think we need, as First Nations, we need to work together on other projects, such as, whether it's, airlines, whether it's pharmacies, whether it's fuel companies, whether it's, building suppliers, construction companies, all that stuff. We are big business in the north.
The construction of the line that brings light is complete, with every First Nations asset energized and only a few waiting full grid connection. Wataynikaneyap is planning another celebration in December in honor of the completion of construction. Justin Hardy, TBT News.
The relatively quiet forest fire season has officially wrapped up in northwestern Ontario. The Ministry of Natural Resources has released its annual season-ending statistics, and, as expected, the number of wildfires was well below the 10-year average. There were 218 fires across the Northwest region in 2024, burning just under 70,000 total hectares. That's on the heels of an above-average season last year. 2022 was the slowest fire season in recorded history in the Northwest, after 2021 was the worst on record. MNR Fire Information Officer Chris Marchand says every season is highly variable and hard to predict too far in advance. Along with the low number of forest fires this year, no communities had to be evacuated, and no fire bans were imposed. Marchand notes that was mainly due to steady rainfall back in the spring.
Ontario's 2024 wildland fire season was marked by a few notable developments. First of all, a really wet spring. We had consistent and widespread spring rains across the province, which largely reduced our early spring fire danger. As well as we got into the fall, we had a fairly active fire season experienced in both Ontario's fire regions with warmer and drier conditions found on both sides of the province.
Marchand points out that the quiet fire season allowed the MNR staff and aircrafts to be deployed to major blazes in Jasper, Alberta, and several other provinces, where the forest fire situation was much worse this summer. The Nuclear Waste Management Organization is one step closer to making its final site selection for a proposed underground repository. The municipality of South Bruce, near Lake Huron, has joined Ignace in being willing to host the site, but by a very slim margin. South Bruce held a referendum on Monday. Just over 51% of the 3,300 voters cast ballots in favor of continuing the process to host a facility to store Canada's nuclear waste. South Bruce is now the second community to declare itself willing after Ignace residents voted 77% in favor earlier this year. Regional Communications Manager with the MWMO, Vince Ponca, says if South Bruce had declared itself unwilling, the proposed site near Ignace would have been more likely, but not a guarantee.
Well, if South Bruce had voted no, that means that the southern site wouldn't have been able to move forward, because we do need a yes vote from the municipality as well as the First Nation. So if they had voted no, it wouldn't have necessarily meant it was coming north, because we do still need to get that expression of willingness from Wagon Lake Ojibwe Nation before we could consider siting a deep geological repository in the northwest.
Wagon Lake plans to hold its willingness vote sometime in November. The NWMO expects to make a site decision before the end of this year. Grassy Narrows First Nation has its first female chief. Sherry Ackaby served as deputy chief for the past 2 years and secured the most votes for chief in the band election held on October 21st.
I was shocked to become the first lady chief. I took a huge step from being deputy chief to chief in my running terms. So this is all new to me and very excited. And I'm looking forward to working with my council behind me.
Ackaby narrowly defeated the incumbent Rudy Turtle, 109 votes to 99. Turtle had been chief since 2022 and also led Grassy Narrows from 2018 until 2020. Ackaby says she wants to work as a team with her 4 band councillors, be a good leader, and work on what the people want. When asked what she will do differently than Turtle, Akabe says she wants to be available to all her members.
I'd like to be more visible, and working with the people is a main key. Get voices from the people. We got to involve our community members in more of the things we do for our community. And just like the saying is, you have to include all your people to move forward and build a better community.
3 sawmills in the Northwest will soon have a new name on their buildings. Resolute Forest Products is being rebranded as Domtar. However, the lumber produced at the 3 area mills will continue to be sold as Resolute products. 3 years ago, Paper Excellence acquired Domtar Corporation in a $3 billion deal. Then in March of 2023, the combined company finalized a $2.7 billion purchase of Resolute Forest Products. All 3 companies will now do business as Domtar. The sawmill in Thunder Bay, Ignace, and near Atikokan have operated as Resolute since 2012. New signage with the Domtar name will be installed at the 3 mills in the coming months. A company spokesperson explains that they decided to continue marketing their products under their legacy names, so each load of lumber from the area sawmills will still be packaged with the Resolute branding on it. Up next, Marathon's planned Active Living Center gets a boost from 2 neighboring First Nations. The ambitious plans for a new active living center in the town of Marathon got a big boost last week. 2 neighboring First Nations are providing a total of $1.5 million to help make the project happen for residents from all 3 communities. Jonathan Wilson has the details.
Plans for the new active living center in Marathon have been in the works for several years. The estimated price tag to build the 100,000 square foot facility is $77 million. It would contain an ice rink, a swimming pool, a bowling alley, and several common areas, with pickleball and basketball courts outside. The impressive facility would be built on Marathon's waterfront on the former pulp mill site. The 2 closest First Nations to Marathon are now providing financial support to the project, with $1 million coming from Beekdagong Nishnabeg, formerly known as Pick River First Nation, and $500,000 from Net Bezagamig, formerly known as Pick Mobert. Marathon Mayor Rick Dumas says he's extremely grateful for the tremendous support from BN Chief Duncan Michano and NN Chief Louis Quissis, who both say the new facility will provide recreation and wellness activities for their members as well. Marathon Council held a special meeting about the project on Wednesday. Dumas says they agreed to go ahead and apply for $35 million from Ottawa and $15 million from the province, and he believes the buy-in from the two First Nations will help get those applications approved. If all goes according to plan, construction could begin in the spring of 2025, with the facility opening in early 2028. Jonathan Wilson, TBT News.
MPP Saul Mamakwa was questioning Ontario's mining minister at Queen's Park in late October about the impact of aerial roadwork surveys on the moose hunt in remote First Nations. The NDP member for Kiiwetinoong says the province should be stepping in to ensure the proponents of the planned roads in the Ring of Fire are consulting other First Nations.
Hunting is fundamental to the traditional ways of life. In Niskanaga First Nation, treaty rights are being violated by helicopters flying and landing on their homelands. This is happening without their consent. These choppers are scaring the moose away and disrupting the annual fall hunt. Will this government respect treaty rights and stop all activities related to the two Ring of Fire road projects until the end of the fall moose hunt?
Obviously, all of the activities around the Ring of Fire roads are being handled through the Indigenous communities through Martin Falls and Webequie. This government is committed to consultation. We have made that very clear, and to the point that the Indigenous communities are conducting the consultation with all the communities on those roads.
That's all the time we have for this edition of Northwest Newsweek. We'll be back again next week with more of the top stories from across the Northwest.